Welcome back. The teams are gearing up for round 2 of Team Envy versus Echo Fox. Echo Fox, I'm going to say somewhat of a surprising Game 1 win given what happened in the mid-game, but pulled it out clean towards the end, or cleanish.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the way these teams were trending, Envy was playing a lot of close games against some of the more top-tier teams, and Echo Fox was looking, after the 0-2 to FlyQuest, not very strong, but they pulled out Karthus, and it worked as far as being able to kind of solve some of their late-game issues. Being able to press R and actually have those initiations go through really helped them a lot.
Certainly did, and for Echo Fox, they're just going to have to play as best they can here and try and close their season here in spring with a victory. Unfortunately for them, as far as controlling their own destiny, all they can do is win this match and then don the FlyQuest jerseys and cheer them on tomorrow when they play Team Liquid. Because if Team Liquid win, it doesn't matter despite the records being given. Echo Fox will have to play in the promotion tournament.
Exactly. The Team Liquid win over TSM really kind of throws a wrench into Echo Fox's earlier aspirations, thinking that they probably thought coming into this week that they would just have to win this one and then they'd be okay. But you always have to prepare for the worst, and Echo Fox needs to just be able to pull this one through. I also just have to think back to that last game. The fact that they lost an inhibitor at 15 minutes and then that just wasn't a big deal raises some red flags as to how Envy actually plays the mid and late game. It's just not there at all.
No, and I mean, the calls leading up to that were great. Echo Fox opted in for a trade they should not have gone for. Envy were already in position to push down that second turret. They knew they had the inside track. They pushed down the second. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, Echo Fox are leaving. There is no way a team stays around, gets ganked by our mid laner and tied up by our jungler, top laner, sorry, and then loses an inhibitor. And what happens? That's exactly what happens. And then somehow Envy don't know what any of the steps after that are.
Yeah, a lot of it is just really weird execution. And, you know, Envy actually tried to do a 2-man defense of 4.5 people, and it worked for the most part, which isn't a play people would even try. Sometimes that's what Envy goes for, though, and we may be in for another wacky game.
Well, I'm going to say probably yes. This Rengar and Graves are banned away from Envy. Strong junglers out of Arcadian's hands. Usually a good place to start. Rumble banned again once more from Seraph. There's Caitlyn away from Apollo. A lot of target bans, which kind of makes sense between these two teams. Camille going to round it out. The top laner away from Lupa, despite the fact that Seraph does like to play that champion as well. And now it's just a matter of what's the final ban here for Echo Fox. Do they want to give over the Lulu? Are they afraid of a different specific champion on the MV side? With 10 seconds left, we'll see what they decide on.
Yeah, I mean, both of these supports are capable of the Lulu, but Echo Fox had such success with the last game. Maybe they were hoping they'd be able to get it back because, I mean, throwing an Elise ban in there is pretty peculiar when you could have just banned the Lulu out anyway, unless Gate really has something he thinks he can beat the Lulu with.
Well, that's going to be Kha'Zix once again for Arcadian and Ashe once more for Cade. So not going to get the Lulu Ashe, which did feel like a very successful part. Okay, yep, I know what Envy are doing. Back to Dixon Chase. Okay, I've seen this one already.
Yeah, they are not messing around once again, and Apollo's best bot lane kind of has been Ziggs
I agree,
this year.
it's been Ziggs.
The nice thing about the Jace as well, like they do this so much. For those of you that are devout followers of Envy, you know this. For the rest of you, I will have to just explain this really quick. And it's great because they put the Jace in the mid or the top lane and allows them to kind of throw whatever else they want into any lane matchups, and they're going to have a nice balance of damage because Ziggs provides so much magic damage that you're always going to have to react to that. And Envy and Seraph, or Ninja and Seraph, do trend towards the physical damage dealers, and this combo gives them the freedom to do whatever they want.
Yep, also kind of gives them easy options to victory. We've seen them siege down a ton of turrets both in the early game, but then kind of convert nicely to mid and late as well. It's a duo that I feel like plays itself relatively well and means Envy don't have to get too tangled up in things like team fighting, which has been a weakness for them. So we'll see how the rest of it pans out. Ari over for Froggen means that Lee Sin's going to get banned away from Alira. Karma banned for Team Envy, though, taking away those top tier supports. So we're going to see some players push down to some different champions in this next phase.
Yeah, a little personally disappointed that we're not getting to see anything else through Retro from Froggen. We were talking during the breaks, like, what other Season 2 champion could he bring out? We're like, Lee Sin, Jarvan, Corki, just all the things he was kind of actually the innovator of way back in the day, about 5 years ago.
Well, there's a Nidalee ban actually away from Lyra, who I believe was responsible for the AD Nidalee that we saw, though both these junglers have played a decent amount of it. Singed ban away from Lupa, maybe indicating the Envy want a tank in that top lane spot, but we'll see what happens with that Jace. Echo Fox, though, going to get a pick out of this, into this phase, sorry, and where are they going to go? They take the tank available, and they want to go with Shen.
Yeah, I mean, just solid champions across the board for Echo Fox. Their team compositions do show cohesion. Most of it has just been about execution. And that last game, Keith actually did top the game in the damage charts, not the Karthus from Froggen. So Keith was really doing a lot of work in those team fights, and he's going to hope to build on a game.
Well, Envy Gragas actually for Seraph, I assume. Although it could also be Lyra's champion. We'll find out what this final pick is there for Envy. Seems like, again, they've kind of got a lot of this draft already rehearsed, so it's just a matter of reacting to whatever Echo Fox have taken away from them.
Yeah, and they know they'd be going up against Shen, so does Seraph have anything crazy he'd want to throw up in the top lane? This isn't necessarily crazy, but it is definitely something that he'd want to be able to kind of bully the lane with. Definitely just to try a triple shove, carry the game through early game type composition for Envy.
Yep, so I mean, straightforward stuff. Win your lanes early, let your jungler be impactful with a champion like Gragas, and then start shoving down turrets and snowball into a big gold lead. That's been the Envy story in so many of their individual game wins. The Echo Fox just needing a support now for Gate. Flick through a couple here and there, but might settle on Zyra actually, not the Tahm Kench. So a bit more aggression in that 2v2.
Yeah, definitely stronger laning presence, not wanting to get super shoved in by the Ziggs and the Lulu. The Tahm Kench would have definitely offered more protection later in the game, but I feel like they probably just had a thought at the end there saying, we can't get shoved into 3 lanes because that's actually how we lose. Give us Zyra so we can win the lane a little bit better, and I think I agree with that choice.
Yep, we'll see what Arcadian and Lyra can get done. As always, junglers will influence the early game, particularly for these two teams that they've each gone off in respective games many times this season already. I mean, Envy, I was actually kind of surprised to not see this in game 1, because I feel like this has been one of their best looking comps. They had the Jace and the Ziggs, both as picks they could have taken, did not for it in game 1. We'll see what happens though in this next game here. I mean, Lulu Ziggs doesn't sound like the most inspiring bottom lane combo, but Lulu's strong enough, I'm sure it's just fine.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point where there's not necessarily a super carry they can augment, but Lulu has just been good at just general haste as far as getting people and the team around the map. Plus, it denies the pick from Ashe.
I mean, from memory, one of the last successful Envy bottom lanes with Ziggs had a Braum in it. So this has to be an improvement from that pick.
If it was successful, then it works.
Maybe I should have gone for it. We'll find out in a second, though. Envy and Echo Fox gonna line up for round 2 here. Echo Fox is gonna try and seal this last win, end their season on a high note, and then see what happens tomorrow for Envy. If there is any hope that they'll sneak into 8, they need to beat Echo Fox. They did it once already in the season. They'll need the second here, and then they'll need a couple of miracles in a row tomorrow.
Exactly. I mean, still interesting in the fact that if either of these teams lose the series, they're 100% in the promotion tournament, and winning is all they can do to try and stay in it. So definitely the definition of a must-win.
Well, we'll see what happens here. This is the last game for the season here, potentially for Echo Fox. Last match for them, certainly. And Envy still with 1 to play as they're going to group up as 4 down towards this bottom half of the map. We'll see if they're trying something sneaky. As Gate and Keith into the brush already, but Froggen's going to join them.
Yeah, there are more Enviers than there are Echo Foxers. It's interesting how Echo Fox is kind of so far in the back of the brush. Like, what is the point of saving so many people in the brush if you're not going to punish an immediate face check? But in this case, it could save them.
Certainly could. Gate actually just getting the seeds going, so we'll have some damage here, but Envy are going to be very patient. That's a recall from Froggen.
Yeah, Lyra will eventually have to go prep the jungle, and Ninja has no teleport either, so they can't really stick around there.
Well, that was uneventful, but Lyra and Ninja off to do what they need to do. Start off the jungle path. Up. First damage goes to Keith. Looks like he won the early trade, although back in for Hakuo. As Bouncing Bob did miss there from Ziggs, and that's a lot of plans from Keith. But unfortunately, Envy will not be able to stop them.
Yeah, it's going to give a nice early shove for Echo Fox, having that much threat already pre-planted in the lane.
Ninja going to help out just a little. Get some rapid damage done. Lyra to be able to take them down with relative ease. And looks like Seraph did get a ward actually into the red buff, so has early vision onto Arcadian, who started on the blue side of his jungle. So no raptor start actually for Arcadian, which is kind of interesting, but see if he has something different in the path sorted out, as Hakuo takes a pretty ridiculous amount of damage here at level 1.
Yeah, I have seen Kha'Zix, even though he benefits from the level 2 Raptor start almost like anyone else does, still be okay not starting that. You're still going to be hitting level 3 very quickly off the side. The blue buff to Gromp is the most efficient part of the jungle for Kha'Zix because he gets the isolation on both of those camps. I think it's Moon who does 2 points into W, which doesn't actually give you much. If you just spec E, you can get the same amount of damage on the Raptors with that, and then W, E, and then kind of hop around. See what Acadian ends up doing. He's just going to skip the Raptors entirely for now.
Looks like he's just kind of farming through. Lyra doing the same though, so junglers are going to end up on a similar side of the map here towards the top lane. We've seen Seraph get aggressive last game in a tank matchup. Now with Renekton in his hands, going to try and do as much damage as he can to Lupa, particularly once he gets all 3 abilities.
Whoa, Acadian actually being really sneaky right here. Doesn't even get red buff after doing a blue buff side and would gank top. This is going to catch Seraph by surprise.
Yeah, he went around the wall. It's a really smart start from Acadian. Taunt there onto Seraph. They're looping, locking him down. He does have the flash, but I don't think he can get out yet. Does get the stun down, but Seraph just trying to run away. It's first blood over to Lupa.
Yeah, a huge opportunity cost from Acadian right there as he didn't clear any of his jungle, and now it may actually get taken away by Lyra, but still a worthy first blood. The question is he's leaving himself open to get punished if it gets punished.
Well, we'll see if Lyra takes it away. No smite here for the Gragas. And Froggen also protecting, the Raptor camp there, despite the ward that Envy got. I believe that was Ninja who placed that down. Seraph first blooded again in 2 games here, but TP's back with a second Doran's Lyra though. It looks like he is going to get away with this steal, so Acadian does cost himself a major buff here in order to get the gank off. Yeah,
Lyra hasn't gotten the Raptors or the Krugs, which are also very valuable camps this early in the game, but hurts Acadian not being able to get his red buff until what will be about 9 minutes into the game, and I think a very worthy counter jungle by Lyra, even if he wasn't there for the first blood.
Yep, Hardcore again, taking damage there from Gate and Keith, who are looking good. Again, plenty of damage here, 2v2, and I think this is what they were looking for as far as their dual lane matchup goes. I mean, Apollo eventually will be able to shove this out pretty quickly, but right now in the early levels, getting zoned pretty heavily. A bit of damage around to Keith, but Sig's not doing too much there. Roots are going to miss. Looks like Acadian's now invading, so trying to take some of Lyra's jungle back onto this Raptor camp now.
Yeah, you can see those still level 3, so even this is a pretty dangerous move. That's why he's warding ahead and pulling the Raptors out a little bit, because if Lyra does catch him, Body Slam Flash could be extremely close to a kill. Yeah,
Ninja also pushed in by Froggen, so good teamwork there for Echo Fox, making sure that they do this together. Unfortunately, the big one's still going to go over to Lyra. Acadian did hit 4, but the majority of that experience loaded into the big monsters, so still advantage over to Lyra. Acadian trying to make it up, and these risks he's taking aren't quite paying off fully for him.
Yeah, it's still paying off for the team because he is down 100 or so gold to Lyra and also a level, but then it's given Looper hopefully a lead in that lane with the kill. Yet to shop to take advantage of it.
Yeah, Seraph again aggressively TPing back in, still shoving those lanes up. I guess Acadian with that red buff going to feel a little less threatening. Ninja backing onto Froggen though. He does get the pass through on the Orb of Deception. Ninja unleashing, going to go for the tower dive. Almost nabs a solo kill, but ran out of mana.
Yeah, Ninja running under the turret with no mana. Normal sight in the North American LCS, but it ends up being a safe, good harass pattern. Thing is, since he did take that turret shot and run himself completely out of mana, Froggen's going to feel safe to finish this wave before recalling, and the ultimate CS cost is going to be extremely low.
Yeah, it should be back to even as far as overall farm goes. Ninja does go back and grab a Hex Trinket though, so things looking good there. It looks like a lot of swords left for Seraph though, as he gets double longsword now, building in towards that Warhammer, but Lupa just taking the farm. He's actually going to shove the way back in as a level 6 Shen, and then go back and finally get his shopman. He can TP back to lane if he needs it. He can ulti out if he wants to from base, but Lupa just, with the early pressure actually from Acadian, off to a really nice start here with the Shen.
Yeah, Grasp Shen against the Fervor Renekton. Renekton would win in a super long engagement, especially with all these items. I mean, Looper, at this point, I think he definitely should have recalled. The fact that he's sticking around for yet another wave, it speaks a little bit to greed to me. He's sitting on 1,800 gold.
I mean, Acadian's also behind him, but Lyra also sitting on this side. Seraph now with his ultimate, so should have an advantage in combat. I wonder what breakpoint Looper is waiting for, but this is very greedy. Maybe spending too much time with Froggen, but we'll see if it costs him his life here. Lyra not coming up for the gank just yet, but again, Seraph will easily win all these trades, particularly that Looper has not gone back to purchase any additional defensive stats. Yeah,
and I felt like he was at a point where he had a map pressure advantage, knowing Seraph's teleport was down, knowing Looper was going to be able to shop and have a gold breakpoint. Could have with that gold, built armor as well as a Bomby Cinder if he wanted to help shove out, or he could have gone Tiamat towards Ravenous Hydra. There's a lot of things that would have given him an early lead, but now he's kind of lost the pressure in that lane because he had to concede so much to Seraph. And he just got one extra wave out of that full delay. Full Chain Vest and a Bomby Cinder, where he could have done a Cloth Armor to Bomby Cinder and been back much earlier. Yeah,
he's going to TP back in, but Seraph's TP is going to come back up, so that global pressure kind of back to even. Looper again does have the Stand United ready, so can join in on something like this red buff invade if he so chooses. Arcadian looking to take this down from Lyra. Smites are up for only one jungler, that's Envy.
Arcadian trying to delay. It's a few seconds until his Smite's back up.
Arrow going to miss from Keith, so that is probably going to call off the play. Lyra might chase him down, does have the flash ready. Very boldly walking into the jungle there, kind of confident in the control the rest of the lanes have. Looper and Seraph though back at it, and Looper starting to win a few more trades. Taunt's good. Grass is going to proc in onto Seraph. Seraph still the ultimate, now going to be forced to burn it. Gets the trade back in onto Looper, getting a good amount of health back from that empowered Q. Looper is going to hang back and take the trade up. Froggen goes ahead and gets his blue buff.
Yeah, and looking back to that invade that we just saw on the red buff, the longer Echo Fox stays there, the more dangerous it becomes because you're just giving the enemy team more time to collapse down. So it was actually very risky by the end of it when they stuck around for the Smite cooldown. Somewhat lucky to not get punished by that.
Well, looks like again Apollo still taking a lot of heat here in the bottom half. Once again, Keith will be going for Bilge Water Cutlass, so later the Rune King into Hurricane should be the build again. But Apollo, with the last chapter already done, should be able to much more easily clear these waves out and hopefully not get pushed in as much. Keith's still with a CS lead there, so somewhat troublesome. We'll see if this lane gets any better for Envy.
Also have to welcome in NALCS1. Congratulations, you're now watching the important marquee matchup of the day.
Correct.
There actually are some pretty big implications to this matchup. Envy and Echo Fox both trying to make it into that 8th place spot. Still technically possible for both of them as long as they win out. This is Echo Fox's last game of the regular season. Envy still has one tomorrow, but the Team Liquid win also makes it even more of a must-win from earlier. So welcome in Echo Fox Envy. We're in it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I think Liquid going to have the biggest smiles on their faces after this because they have certainly thrown a lot of haywire around. Even the bottom half of the standings, Seraph trying to take that buff away, but Arcadian able to collect it. But again, pushing up, playing aggressively, and trying to get some deep vision down into Echo Fox's jungle. Seraph, always an aggressive player, and looks like Froggen going to try his own play now. Tara being lined up here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and Envy, who has specialized in getting first turret this year, are not willing to give it away so easily. The Ziggs, incredibly hard to even turret dive because you can almost always keep the minions away from the turret, which makes the dive that much more dangerous.
Froggen taking some poke down to it. Arcadian's going to slow down Ninja. Arrow going to find it. Doesn't land the stun. Ninja does have cleanse as well, so not likely to work.
Able to pretty freely run where he wants. All summoners up. Pretty much in the game, actually. The laning phase has been very not interactive when compared to last game. Not many plays orchestrated by the jungler outside of the early game.
Nice ulti there from Gake. Could be a kill over to the Ashe. Apollo does get wild growth, so that will keep him safer. But Echo Fox just continuing to burn cooldowns here in that bottom lane. All of a sudden, 2 summoners down for Apollo.
Yeah, Apollo also knocked away Keith with the satchel charge to kind of save his life, but the start of that fight was so huge for Echo Fox. 2 summoners, 4-1. The Ashe arrow on not much of a longer cooldown, and if Froggen gets something here, this could be big.
Well, Hakuo locked down again. Froggen with a charm, easily able to take down Hakuo. Now going to dive in solo for Apollo. Gets the damage back down, but Lyra there. A standard data onto Froggen will not save him. Lyra does get around, but now Seraph's overreaching for a play here in the bottom lane. I mean, he's got flash. He's going to try and dash. No, just takes the CS instead.
Yeah, so not a good teleport match by Seraph right there, who was not having a good series, but still a pretty good dive for Echo Fox. I think the kill at the start, which was set up by Gate to get on the Hakuho, was what was necessary. The rest of that was probably pushing too hard. Well,
Froggen does at least get the trade after diving in, so certainly starting off well. Gate's been really on point with the CC.
Yeah, if you're landing that many grasping roots, then they're going to be gating a lot of kills. But Froggen thought with the Shen ult he'd be okay. Lyra being able to show up and keep him in the turret was all they needed. And once again, Seraph does not need to make that teleport and ends up missing a big wave because of it.
Yeah, Loop is going to even that CS back up, deny some of the creeps onto that top lane as well. You can get some turret damage down. Now with his teleport back up, and of course his ultimate will be back up pretty shortly as well. Seraph's got a long window where he really can't do too much globally. He's going to have to try and continue to bully this lane, but now with the Sunfire fully completed for Lupa and an extra cloth armor probably for the Ninja Tabi, like, Seraph's until Black Cleaver and maybe even after that, not going to be doing too much for this pretty tanky Shen.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, a lot of times when Action wants to rely on that early game farm advantage, he still will be able to get pretty big later in the game, and if he can get onto Keith, we'll still be able to kill him as long as he's farming in this way. But having picked into the Shen, it's definitely not one of those things that can completely smash him, not to mention when Looper gets the kill at the start of the game.
Well, Lupa still causing pressure as Envy once again getting deep wards onto that top side jungle, kind of keeping track of Echo Fox's red buff. Lyra, I thought, was maybe coming for a gank, but he's going to recall instead. Lupa is going to chunk these down. Seraph now rejoins the wave to get that going up for himself. And other than that, nothing too crazy itemization-wise going on. Kate has finished that Blade, which did do a lot of work in tandem with the Hurricane in the last game. And we've actually got Runic Echoes for Lyra. I'm not too up to date on how Gragas's are going for the early jungle item, but opting for a bit of extra damage here.
Yeah, I see most jungle Gragas's go with Runic Echoes. If they fall behind, he just becomes incredibly squishy, but they get it for the jungle clear as well as just having a little bit of burst damage. It's definitely plays a little differently as a jungle Gragas than as the top lane super tank Gragas.
Makes sense. You're looking good with the Giant's belt, so does have some early tank sets up as well. Gonna look for this red buff so many minutes ago now. Felt like Arcadian wanted desperately. But again, kind of back to a more relaxed atmosphere that we've seen in game one as well. And MB, you have to always worry because the one struck has been their early game, and when that hasn't gone well, they've just kind of floundered, not doing too much else. Arrow onto Ninja's good, cleanses it off, but next attempt that will not be available.
Except he just has the flash next time. We'll have to see.
Ooh, taunt is nice from Lupa. Seraph recalling in a silly spot. Does have his flash, but Lupa might just keep chasing down. No support forthcoming. He walked over the control ward that Lupa's put down there as well as Keith eats the shock blast in the mid lane from Ninja as the dual lane has rotated into mid lane now for Echo Fox. Can actually keep Froggen in that side lane despite the fact that no turrets have fallen. Kind of interesting to see Echo Fox do this rotation somewhat early.
Yeah, and they're really close to losing that mid lane turret. I think maybe Froggen just wants to get out of that situation a little bit. He is being shoved in by the Hex Drinker Jace more often than not, and because of the roam bottom side, he lost his foothold, at least on the pressure in that lane. So when they move two people there, they're hopefully trying to kind of delay what would be the first turret going down.
Gideon here going to take control of the top side Scuttle Crab. Echo Fox again, happy to play it nice and chill. Lupa trading well onto Seraph here. Does get stunned, but Shen pretty tanky in these stages, and Seraph does kind of need to complete that first major item to maybe combat a little bit better. Polo chilling things out. I mean, can also get the siege happening here as well as again another cancel.
Yeah, I mean, Looper has a control ward in the far brush, so if Seraph's in there, if Seraph is not shown in the control ward, then Looper was pretty safe taunting forward. He's just delaying this as much as possible because Seraph's sitting on about 1,600 gold, doesn't want to give up a minion wave just to go shop, but that's what Looper is continually trying to force. I wonder if he goes and gets him again.
There's the ping one. Yeah. I believe he's on the control ward this time, but lets it go.
It doesn't even bother killing the control ward. He's like, you're going to come this far to interrupt me. You deserve it.
Libra instead is going to shove down the wave. Teleport is up for Seraph, but he's going to walk back now, kind of knowing that he does need to have that cross-map presence with the teleport. Polo juggling some bombs there in the mid lane, but probably needs a stiff breeze and a satchel to take down that mid-outer turret and give MB that first turret that they love so much.
Yeah, been a very subdued early game. We saw an inhibitor down at 15 minutes in the last one. So definitely fewer crazy plays being attempted, but still some lane swapping that could definitely open up at any point.
It's kind of funny to see that Echo Fox are playing a similar style to Game 1, just kind of without the same scaling. I think part of what I liked about Echo Fox's Game 1 comp is that they had a lot of insurance built in with the likes of the Karthus this time. A lot more pick and mid-game focus, but when they don't find the picks, that's it.
Yeah, actually pretty good side steps
really
by Envy right
nice.
there. The arrow ends up field goaling, but that was one where I liked the aim. A lot of times I haven't been a fan of Keith's arrows because I feel like he shoots them at strange angles, which give really easy retreats. The arrows I'm the biggest fan of is when you're trapping someone in a corridor and you're cutting off their natural escape path with it. as well as making it so they could only juke in one direction, so almost forcing like a sideways summoner spell usage to dodge. Hard to find those spots on the map, but that was a pretty good one because they were trapped in the river. Just good side steps.
Yep, no pick though forthcoming, and as a result, mid turret goes over to Envy, so they'll continue to keep that percentage high, taking down the mid outer turret that eluded them for so long there in game number 1. And again, if Zig's going to get towards that second item, now a Shane up for Apollo building in towards the Lich Bane. Sure, Drake being started by Echo Fox is going to be kind of a total objective trade, assuming they take this down freely, which it looks like they will, but Envy definitely kind of mounting towards that mid game, and with Ziggs and Jace, you have to think the plan should be simple and just trying to siege down as many turrets as possible once they're at maybe the 2-item threshold apiece.
Yeah, it's setting up shop, landing some poke onto any of the squishies on Echo Fox to push them off the turret, and then also having Seraph trying to neutralize Shen as much as possible, make it so he can't ultimate in to save or create any flank initiations.
Keep him busy. Seraph doing that so far. Going to proxy away by the looks of things, but Echo Fox is coming up to gank him. Yeah. Bad time for a proxy.
Maybe not the best time for proxy, but there's also all of Envy coming up here as well.
Oh, he's out. Maybe, yep. Looper going to let him go. Doesn't taunt him now. And as you mentioned, Apollo, Lyra, and Haku are all towards that side of the jungle, continuing to keep it watered down. In fact, Lyra might even be thinking about a potential dive, but instead just joins the wave and going to help Apollo push in towards this turret.
Yeah, you look up, they've taken the first turret. They're up 1,000 gold, and they're even taking control of the jungle. So these are the steps you want to see them taking. As far as they can get deep vision, it's just a matter of creating plays from this point forward.
And they're also quite strong in his 1v1. Froggen is getting a little bit more farm here, I think, in this bottom lane. Keith's going to have to farm this mid lane for as long as he can and as safely as he can. And Ninja should get really strong when he hits whatever his next item breakpoint is. He's kind of just got a couple components and now Froggen's getting dove. Ulti is not quite there. Good angle attempt there from Lyra, but Froggen, what a boost his way to safety. Arrow length up
they got one.
Game flashes in. There's the pick that Echo Fox won. Acadian comes down on Apollo.
Finally, they land the Ash Arrow. Apollo does not flash it. And then his chain CC. This is a power play for Echo Fox.
Yeah, looks like if they take this down, it should even the game right back up. Echo Fox will actually find themselves ahead in gold after taking down this turret. And sure, it's not a big lead, but the one problem is that maybe they don't get turrets and Envy are able to siege them out now. Not a possibility.
Yeah, even with that though, the mid lane turret does hold more map value. Ninja got one on the bottom side, so Envy's still able to trade back. Envy's strat is still going to be trying to go strong, push the lanes up as much as possible, use the Jace and the Renekton in split push situations, and if Apollo ever gets free time, he'll just delete a turret with the satchel charge. Other than that, he'll be on wave clear duty. As we mentioned, Envy's most effective comp throughout the year.
Again, Echo Fox happy with this. Looper going to go down, meet the minion wave coming towards that tier 2 turret, so he'll be easily able to push those out and then join fights whenever he needs to. Froggen transferring up to the top lane. This has been a staple of, I would say, Echo Fox's play, but particularly just Froggen's general playstyle. He loves to get into the open side lane and take kind of the majority of that farm. Ooh,
Froggen has flash. Look out, though.
Stuns good. Actually flashes out of the way. There's the Apollo's ulti, going to miss as a result. Looper up here, going to try and turn it around. Surf gets taunted. There's the goal for Froggen. Lyra gets the double belly slam, but now Lyra's actually going to take a little too much damage. Charge is going to keep Looper out of the way as Apollo swoops in to save him, but Echo Fox turned that around very well.
Yeah, and low coordination from Envy right there. Even if Froggen didn't jump out of the Ziggs ult, I think the Grog Assault hits him out of it anyways, because they just kind of layered everything onto the stun thinking it would hit. But the CC was clearly not long enough to keep him there. All their ultimates miss Froggen, and then when Looper comes in, they can turn it around.
Now the Luden's completed for Froggen is actually a good bump in his power as well. Keith is getting there towards the rune and shouldn't be too far away from it. Does need a little bit more work to be done, but pretty cheap item as Echo Fox also going to get a turret trade here with Acadian. Able to do the work on the bottom side with everyone else up towards the top, trying to take out Froggen. I mean, Shen does create lots of opportunities for simple cross-map plays. That's kind of what Echo Fox need. I mean, sure, Ninja continuing on his turret warpath, but Echo Fox just, it feels like they have so much control of this game. Part of that's strat, part of that's playstyle, and a lot of that's just Envy not pulling the trigger in a lot of these situations.
Yeah, and Looper has had a pretty strong laning phase against Seraph, so Seraph, while he's trying to put pressure on, has been a little bit on the back foot. I think one of the X factors in this game is going to be Keith's performance on this Ashe. Last game, he was quite good on it. in the team fight phase. And in this game, there is a Gragas who can displace him and put him at a position with a few spells. So if Keith stays safe, the team fighting of Echo Fox is much better, and they have the Shen to neutralize the split push turret demolitionist style that Envy's trying to play. So if they execute right, I think Echo Fox can take this 2-0.
Yep, and there's the Hurricane up for Keith as well, so that's all the power Ash really needs to get things going. Keith, of course, will continue to get stronger as the items come out. Apollo also has his Lich Bane, so he's quite strong, particularly on turrets, but also if fights were to break out, despite being a very different style of bot lane champion. It might just be on something like a Baron Dance that really breaks the game wide open, but we'll see what happens. Drake up in a minute, and Echo Fox again defending from Envy's just continued pressure on this top lane.
Yeah, and now you're looking at the ward coverage around the Baron area, and it's actually pretty favorable for Envy. Echo Fox is going to have to do a lot to break through that without getting picked off, but when Envy just moves everybody down, they give up some of that pressure.
And I think Shen's just causing so many problems naturally. These are the kind of conditions you love when you have the team with the Shen, because if the other team's just going to run around trying to find you, try and get something started, Shen is already ahead on the plate and ready to join a fight if the team fight's going to break out as well. Sure, Seraph, he's down, he's matching, and he does have his TP, but as soon as one of those things falls apart, or if Envy just find themselves in the wrong spot, Echo Fox have shown they are proactive enough, especially with this kind of pick comp, to get a pick and start things rolling for themselves.
Yeah, and about those picks as well, the Looper ultimate onto a Froggen who's flanking is one of the most effective uses of it, but that also commits them into leaving Keith to his own devices. So I'm actually very curious as the way Echo Fox chooses to play this against Envy specifically. They do not want to give this one back to Envy, so do they play it slow, or do they do a flank? Here we go.
We got Lyra going to get some damage down, but the Gragas is pretty tanky at this stage. Look for the flash on, it doesn't land it onto Apollo. But again, Echo Fox is still going to fight it out. Apollo with a big ultimate as Looper. This satchel back in towards Envy. He's going to go down as Hardcore gets credit for the kill. And now Lyra bops on the Frog to try and pick him off. Gate already dead to Ninja as he gets himself a double kill. That went so wrong for Echo Fox.
They completely belly flop the engage right there. Just almost everything goes wrong, from the taunt flash miss to open, to Looper dying with his ultimate up because he was the initial focus, leaving no protection for anybody else. Envy goes huge off of that Mountain Drake, which makes them want to rotate towards the Baron.
Cadian actually could be the next pickoff here. Ninja going to chase him down. Does have the Storm Raiders on the Jace, so he gets some chunk damage out. He can chase him. Envy instead, they're just rushing towards the Baron.
Yeah, this could be a 50-50 that Envy is going to just opt into, which is always risky, but it's a team like Envy that's going to go for it. Cadian can go in, and Shen will be up to ult, so there could be 3 people in this pit almost instantly.
Keith also flanking now. Ninja wants to knock him out, but Looping going to protect him with the ultimate. They need to pull DPS onto Baron, but Cadian gets too low. I actually was there to smite it, but the smite goes to Lyra. Envy collect the Baron and lose no one.
That is one way to try and get the advantage on the game. A very risky 50-50 by Envy, but it does pay off in this situation, and oh boy.
Gets the kill. Things starting to really slip away from Echo Fox. Envy all of a sudden are almost 4,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, the floodgates are open at this point, but now the question will still become, what is enough? We're going to watch this one more time. The Ash Arrow lands, so you think an Echo Fox is going in, but it's on a pretty tanky person. And then here, I mean, even if Looper gets Apollo, where's the follow-up? They're 2 screens away. 4 people actually get tagged by that ultimate, as Looper did right before he got blasted back by the Gragas ultimate. Then the continuation turns pretty easy. Nice snipe by Ninja on the backside before concluding double kill into Frog into heart.
And look, credit to Envy. That was very well played given the situation that was in front of them. But Echo Fox just did not need to present themselves so easily to Envy. As a result, that dyssynergy we called out with the Zigzag and the Gragas ult looks great in that fight because they do them in the proper order. And now Envy with the Baron buff and a Ziggs are ready to knock down some structures.
Yeah, outer turrets available in all 3 lanes. Envy with already a 5,000 gold lead. We saw an 8,000 gold Baron power play by Echo Fox last game. Probably unlikely to see the same level of one, but Envy would be a team to try and go big. Oftentimes they go home, they don't make it, but this is an opportunity to do so.
Well, they're going to have to get something done here, so they're going to start things off in the top and mid section. In fact, Seraph also pushing, so Envy kind of maximizing that greed you talked about, looking to get as much damage done as possible. He's clearing out the top wave, so we'll see if they consolidate power and kind of get the guaranteed turrets here, but maybe they're going to run it through mid. Echo Fox trying for a flank. Arrow misses onto Apollo, though. So that arrow is going to be down, and Keith is eating damage from Ninja. Apollo as well with the ultimate follow through, and Keith now has to back away. Cadian gets pushed off the turret by Lyra's ulti, and Envy get their first turret. Mid-tier 2 is down.
Yeah, Keith isn't there to wave clear. Seraph's going to pressure this one up on one side. At the very least, they get 2 outers. They're actually taking this a little bit slowly. With the poke they'd gotten onto Keith, you could have made the argument to push through for the middle inhibitor.
Ziggs tosses the satchel in, and that's going to be that next turret. Ninja did go towards the top lane, so I think they're just trying to take all the tier 2 turrets rather than bust down an inhibitor turret. I mean, certainly it's the safer play from Envy, and it's the one that the simpler play that I think teams know how to make innately, but I wouldn't mind a little bit more risk here from Envy, but they've certainly been a risk-averse team, with the exception of that Baron 50-50 that got them into this position.
Man, I mean, risks that you're willing to take when you're a 3-13 team. If it's a 50-50 for victory, that's a great percentage to take in that situation, even though there are ways to prep that better. Watching this one, though, with the 7,000 gold lead, they're just going to keep the pressure on. Yeah,
it looks like they might have enough. Baron buff still up for quite a while longer, so my understanding of that timing, certainly Envy know that they have more than enough time to prep these waves and knock down those 6 turrets, as they do have the turrets go up by 4 over Echo Fox. Again, inhibitors are going to stay safe, so Echo Fox don't have to worry about that, but there's another Mountain Drake on the way soon, and if the Ziggs Jace team ever wanted anything more, extra Mountain Drake's probably high on the list.
It just adds to what they're already good at, so there are ways where you think, hey, that doesn't necessarily help them as much because they were already going to excel in these situations anyway, but it does get to kind of this critical mass point where, oh yeah, Ziggs can walk up, auto-attack, and press satchel charge, and the turret dies. Then you think, oh, okay, that actually puts them over the top, and I think Double Mountain Drake in this situation is that. It's the latter, where it will be very effective if they can get it.
Well, it looks like Keith's going to try and get some parity back. Tower's going to go down. Ninja here, but gate behind Keith, so Echo Fox's dual lane should be okay. Envy, though, busy prepping on the right-hand side. Big Baron power play, almost 6,000 gold. And Envy didn't press that hard with that advantage, so it could have been bigger, but still a huge lead that they've got for themselves.
Yeah, there was standing gold on the map. They took 3 outer, or mid-tier turrets, rather, on Echo Fox. Didn't go harder beyond that, so also didn't suffer any casualties, which keeps the Baron power play relatively healthy.
See what tanky Lyra is getting as well. Did go straight for 2 tank items and has the extra Giant Spell. After that, Runic Echoes, Iceborne Gauntlet, and Spirit Visage, plus the Lulu helping him out, means that Envy have a very clear front line to play with. Seraph's also decently tanky. GA is going to be nice in some of these exchanges as well. So things are set up exceptionally here for Envy to just take the next objective or win the next team fight. I imagine 25 seconds that Mountain Drake will be the next point they go to, but they can also poke down Keith because Ninja's doing a boatload of damage.
Yeah, I think the right call for Envy here is to actually slow play it. 6,000 to 7,000 gold leads are not safe, though, in these Envy games. If you're looking at what Echo Fox could do to come back into it, they still have that flanking pick potential. If they can blow up Apollo before he gets anything off, or if they can get onto Ninja, that's the majority of the damage for Envy. Envy also has very upfront damage, so if the upfront damage misses, the sustained damage isn't the same level as what Hurricane Blade of the Ruined King Ashe can do.
Well, we'll see if Envy get caught slipping again by Echo Fox, or if they're able to close this one out with a few mistakes on the other end. Mountain Drake's up though, so that's going to be the first obvious target for Envy. Like you said, you think they should play it slow. I imagine they were going to play that way anyway, but certainly want to make sure they consolidate the lead. Use all their advantage rather than making things too risky. Drake goes over, Baron's up now in 55 seconds, so Envy probably going to move all their vision over to that side as well. And Echo Fox just kind of have to wait to play reactively here. Weren't in time there for the Mountain Drake. No need to make anything too crazy, but I think you have to defend for this next Baron.
Yeah, and if Envy is in position to try and rush it, they will. We've seen they're already willing to go for a 50-50, and they can increase the odds a little bit now that they have all their ultimates up. Jace can knock people back, and Gragas is the most notable person being able to throw an explosive cask out. So there's a chance they can completely prevent Acadian from even making it in the pit for a steal if they rush it.
Sheer amount of damage as well. It's going to mean the timer will be very short for Echo Fox if they are going to get their way over there. Sarah splitting bot, matching up with Looper right now. You can already see 10 seconds up. Froggen and Arcadian are in good positions. Echo Fox know they have to defend here, but the control ward's down. Baron up now in a few seconds. Lyra getting that vision cleared out as well. Just trying to make sure Echo Fox are completely blind when this attempt starts.
Oh, but here comes Echo Fox.
But Katie onto Hako, sorry, is SK's ultimate. That's going to be a kill, and Echo Fox do find a pick. Apollo, they're going to take down Gate, so it's 4v4 as he moves towards the Baron. In fact, Seraph cancels the TP, so there's pressure down bottom lane as well.
What a weird little situation we're in right now as Lyra just kind of walks in by himself. You want the setup, but Envy was almost impatient in getting it. They weren't necessarily staying together, and it leads to the pick.
Well, now Katie ain't going to stay too long. Lyra with a big play, almost predicts the flash perfectly. But Lyra's now going to chase him down, gets it to the sky slow. Katie going to get knocked back here. Lyra kills him before the teleport can complete, and now Looper's got to get out of here. Froggen misses that next charm, but Ninja keeps sieging forward.
Yeah, and they do not have Baron, but they still have the Ziggs and the Jace. Just a few hits on this turret with Double Mountain can drop it.
Oh, Looper gets the taunt, but a cleanse out from Ninja's knife. The charge onto Looper to try and knock him back. As Envy are going to look to take the turret. Ziggs destroys it with a short fuse Lichbane auto.
Exactly, so that's the thing that adds the cherry on top for Ziggs is not only does he have the satchel charge, he didn't even need it there, that can execute from 30% health. His short fuse passive that he gets roughly every 12 seconds or faster through spell casting, as well as the Lichbane, just all add together for what was about half a turret with one auto.
Yeah, and now they're actually going to go for the Baron as well. So Arcadian's dead for 5 seconds. Envy just do so much damage to this objective. A little bit of vision's not enough. Lupin not even close to try and steal it. And Envy once again find themselves up with a Baron buff, but this time it's 10,000 gold ahead. Lyra though caught out of position.
Oh no.
Gonna get taunted up by Looper, stayed up by Gate, uses the ulti, buys some time, gets in onto Keep, but Froggen grabs the shutdown. So not quite flawless, but we'll take it.
Yeah, but he really wanted the Scuttle Crab. Like it's worth it, right? You have to be able to secure the Baron vision after the Baron has already been taken. Oh boy. Not the way Envy wanted to close this game out. Now they have to wait 40 seconds more before they can start to push. Not to mention, this gives time for Echo Fox to keep the minion waves back, eating in to precious Baron buff time.
Yeah, you're gonna waste maybe close to half of it after all the wave pushing, and death time is said and done. We'll have to wait for Envy to get this next section started. And Echo Fox are continuing to play proactively. They know they're behind. They don't maybe know exactly by how much, but they are just sneakily playing around, hoping somebody continues to make mistakes and they can keep themselves in this game. I mean, the more they delay Envy, the better, but if Envy make too big of a mistake, Fox actually might just turn the game back around in their favor. So
yeah,
10,000 gold, I mean, it's about as safe as the leads get, but still not safe.
Yeah, always a possibility, especially when you have so much contention over a 35-minute Scuttle Crab. Seraph is actually finishing it off, but Lyra's back now. Envy's trying to set up their waves in the right situation. And the fear for them would be an overdive or a good flank by Echo Fox. If Envy plays this smart, they can just throw out some Gragas barrels, get a few hits in from Jace, and then have Apollo execute the turret. With that, though, Cleanse is down for Ninja, and no QSSs or McHales are to be found.
Well, Hako does have the more traditional supporting items. This time, Redemption Locket already done, so some protection can be offered there by the Lulu. Back quite a bit. But Envy going to take this inhibitor instead by the looks of things. Froggen busy clearing bottom wave, so he's going to be a little late to this initial siege by Envy.
Double Mountain take it really fast. Froggen's back now, though, so Envy have to show respect.
Not on too much here, just getting a few more pot shots in with Ninja. Looper trying to find a taunt, but Lyra blocking the other side of it. Seraph takes the area, that's probably fine, although damage is there. Gonna get taunted as well, but Keith almost gets exploited by Apollo single-handedly. Echo Fox gonna go down as Looper does lose his life, and Envy busts down the inhib. Really nice little disengage there from Envy, and they're now 5v4 pushing towards the Nexus.
Yeah, they want to go for a lot more. Watch this Ziggs just chunk down this turret.
Oh, it's gone.
Gone.
Absolutely gone. Don't need much more. Seraph burnt the ultimate to try and soak a bit more damage in. Apollo needs to get onto these turrets. Froggen also chunked down as well, so he's going to have to go back to base and give Envy a few more seconds to try and win this game.
Yeah, it's going to be a 5v4, and as long as Apollo can get that auto attack in on the turret, it's gone.
Yep, there it is. Loses about 40% health just from the short fuse. Seraph finds Keith, goes back into him, and he goes down. Envy are going to force a third and final game. Froggen caught it on the other side. Apollo flashes in for a bit of a victory celebration. We wouldn't have it any other way. A must-win game will have a final. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, and it is that much of a must-win. It was passed back to Envy in a few ways in this matchup. Echo Fox did hold that lead, but had a disastrous initiation down by the first Mountain Drake, which led them down a path to an Envy 36-minute win. The start was good for Acadian. Froggen had a good start on Ari as well, but once that turret pushing got rolling for Envy, there was no stopping it.
Yeah, and again, played it pretty slow, but understood the strengths of their comp, and then did make a proactive decision with the Baron buff. That was the thing to me that, like, Envy at one point, I know they're a very risk-averse team, despite having such good early games, but at some point, you need to do something to try and push the game in your favor. That Baron call was it. It was risky, but Lyra's Smite was true, and that actually set up the rest of the game for them.
Yeah, I mean, I normally am not a fan of 50-50 Barons. It is something I am pretty much against, and when you have a Kazakhstan come in with a Shen, that basically turns into a 50-50. But as we mentioned, if you're a 3-13 team, 50-50 sounds pretty good.
Yeah, like
right? So it's worth it in that case for Envy to go for it because they can't create those plays in any other way, and it worked out.
Well, it certainly works out for this game, but for a deeper dive on that particular game, we're going to hand it off to the analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Envy evening up the series, 1-1 here, pushing it to a Game 3, and once again, keeping their hopes of avoiding relegation alive here. There is still that possibility of a three-way tie in which Envy actually ends up in 8th. So, again, I'm constantly amazed at the fact that we're still talking about the possibility of our 10th place team avoiding relegation here coming into the second last day of the regular season.
Right, like coming to the last day, we don't know the #1 team. We don't know the team there. We don't know who's like the last team in the playoffs, and we're not going to even know who's getting relegated on the last day of the season. That's crazy.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's going to make tomorrow's games all that much more exciting. Of course, this does still require Envy to close out this series. So they've done what they needed to do here and pick up Game 2 to extend it to Game 3. And let's work our way towards that third game. Here for Envy, though, once again, we see some early moves made by Lyra, but I think the big thing here is that Jace pick up in the mid that you talked about for Ninja.
Yeah, I said at the end of the last game, I think the Jace pick is one of the few champions he looks really comfortable on, where he is able to make a big influence over the course of the game.
Yep.
So they grabbed the Zig pick early on to make sure that he's going to be free to do that, add the magic damage to the team comp so that they can get Seraph also on a champion he's pretty comfortable on in Renekton. So they end up with this really well-built team comp overall, and despite the early game not going great, this is one of the few times that Envy doesn't need a lead to actually win as the game goes on because they're finally on champions that they play well in the mid to late game.
And ultimately, I do love that Ziggs pick for lower tier teams that sometimes struggle to actually take turrets because you only need a half a second next to a turret to deal a substantial amount of damage. And we'll get to the late game where they were able to close it out because as you mentioned, it wasn't the smoothest early game for Envy. Again, remember, this is the battle of the two teams at the beginning of the split were the early game dominant teams. And this time around, Echo Fox getting out to a little bit of a lead and at one point even kind of throwing it back to Envy with a bad team fight 24 minutes into the game. 3-0 around Dragon for Envy, but off of the Echo Fox engage.
And the big thing here is the fact that people always talk about Looper is like, is he too far ahead of his team? Is he frontlining well and his team's not following up? Well, I think this is one of the times that you can definitely say Looper is way too far ahead of his team.
Even if that lands.
Right, like what's going to happen? Froggen's going to blow 2 ult charges trying to get in range.
There.
Yeah, and there's still a front line in the way, so there's no way that anyone actually follows up on that play. Makes it very easy for Envy to, with that ability of Ziggs, just kind of throw damage at the backline, combo with the Gragas ultimate that chunks out the backline. Ninja's able to clean that one up while the rest of the team is then dealing with Looper. It's pretty much the ideal team fight for Envy. Off the back of that, they grab the Dragon, they grab the Baron, and I think they got around a 6,000 Baron power play, so you see that gold graph just shoot up right there around the 25-minute mark.
All the more punishing, too, that he's the only frontliner for the team there. So when he does go for that engage and it doesn't come out the way he wants it to, well, we've just lost our frontliner. That gave Gragas permission to kind of pincer in onto the backline and pick up those kills. Of course, the Baron then goes over, and we saw some time elapse before the game ultimately went in Envy's favor. But once they had control, they kept it, and they closed it out in, again, a relatively smart fashion. We did see a couple times, hey, pick up the Baron, and then Lyra dies while doing Scuttle. There's absolutely no reason for that to happen, and those are the kinds of mistakes that we expect you as a pro player to avoid 100%. Like, you should come in to the LCS at that level, knowing that you should back with your team and push as 5.
Right, it was really greedy. He was like, I think he was working on the Scuttle Crab, maybe trying to grab just that little bit of extra gold for some item he wanted to finish. But either way, I think the big story here is the fact that Envy did not have that good early game.
Right.
They were still ahead of gold, only about 1,000, but not significantly. Froggen had some roams early on to get some kills. And then they win a team fight in the late game, which is where, and that's kind of the bane of Envy, was that they couldn't win team fights, and it's really hard to win a game if you can't win team fights, but this time around, they're able to do so. And then, like you said, sure, it wasn't the cleanest play with the advantage once they got it, but they never made that horrible game-ending team fight throw where everyone dies and gets aced. It was like, oh, someone got picked where they shouldn't have. They traded 1-for-1 when they shouldn't have. Those kinds of situations.
Exactly. Player of the game going to Ninja on that Jace. And while we talk about his solid performance here on Jace, I do also want to talk, though, about where this could be worrisome for Envy, because it feels like their win conditions are so narrow. If Ninja only looks good on Jace and Talon, well, hey, I could just double ban him and we'll never have to worry about Envy again. And so, although I'm glad to see them finding some comfortability on certain champions and paths to victory on certain champions, it worries me that their pools are not large enough, that their playbook is not large enough to actually come away with enough wins.
Right. It seems like the bot lane can play enough things. It seems like Lyra can play whatever and he'll do well.
Right.
And then you just look at the solo laners who seem to need either like specific counter picks or specific champions themselves. The nice thing is that moving on to the red side, they will have that kind of counter pick advantage. So maybe they can find something and start turning some kills around like the top lane, maybe get Seraph off the ground or Ninja again. He had a great game on Jace. You're just scared if, you know, first round bans, you ban the Jace, second round bans, ban the Talon, and then, you know, what does Envy do after that?
That's the thing. Do or die time here. Once again, have to win both this game here and then tomorrow as well for Envy if they have any chance at that 8th place slot. So let's work through it one game at a time. Here in Game 3, as you mentioned, we've got the counter pick, but I have to assume that Echo Fox will react to the Jace that they saw in this game. So assuming he cannot get the Jace and maybe even not the Talon, from the perspective of Envy, what do I want to put him on? Again, am I putting him something on simple execution that I know is going to be relevant pretty much no matter what? Or am I going to give him a playmaker and let him, you know, put his money where his mouth is?
I think you need to put him on a playmaker. We've seen him on control mages before, like the Ori and Cassio and those kinds of things, and he just doesn't look super impressive. I don't mind him on the Ahri, which he played in Game 1. It wasn't the best performance on the Ahri, but it wasn't awful either. I think the Karthus counter pick that they had was very surprising, so maybe in this case you just hold your mid pick for last. Froggen will have tons of stuff he's fine playing blind, and you're not going to be able to exploit him too hard, but if you can go even with Froggen and then maybe make a couple plays around the map, or just let Lyra run wild while you hold Froggen in mid, I think that's all he needs to do.
Now, and in this draft phase, if we talk about the way that Echo Fox approached Game 2, the double ban there in Phase 2 towards the jungle, both the Lee Sin and the Nidalee bans coming through, once again, didn't seem to have too much effect on the outcome of the game in terms of the fact that, you know, Lyra's mechanical ability on Gragas still seemed to be there. His decision-making, for the most part, still seemed to be there, right? We saw him making good engages, predicting even ults and flashes with his ultimate. You know, aside from the one poor decision-making, you know, example that we named, as a whole, I'm not sure that there was much value in the Lisa and Nid bans, and so I would probably encourage Echo Fox here in Champions League to target more towards the mid lane or even that Ziggs. Don't give them the easy way to take turrets in close games.
Sure, and I think that makes sense. The thing is, I still respect the Nidalee ban a little bit because you probably don't have much experience with it, and even if you do play against it, have you really played against, you know, Lyra's Nidalee?
Right.
I don't think it's quite the same thing to say, oh yeah, we played against, you know, some random Nidalee player. I think it's a big difference between the two, and I can understand wanting to take that off the table. His Lee is also extremely good, but like we said, at that point, Lee is not like a super power pick, and you know Ninja's going to perform on something else, so maybe not the Lee Sin ban.
All right, well, it's time for both of these teams to leave it all out on the Rift. The teams are tied up. Only one can claim the victory. Meet us back here for Game 3 to see which of these teams stay alive and who is headed for the promotion tournament. We'll see you soon.
Hello.
I'm not there yet. The floor, Shen.
First.
I have to go behind. I have no choice. I'm going behind. I'm going behind.
Let's go multi.
아리. 야, 제이스 어디 봐. 다이라 잡았어. 오케이, 나이스.